There's one thing we all need when we're shooting, it's hearing protection. Now, my whole life I grew up using cheap stuff. These are even nicer than what I grew up with. I've always just used the disposable ones. Sometimes if whoever I went shooting with had over-ear earmuffs, I'd use those as well. Those do actually block out sound a bit better in general. However, over the last few years, I've been introduced more and more to electronic hearing protection. And I gotta tell you, I'm a bit sold on it. So today what I've done is I've rounded up kind of 5 different electronic hearing protection. Here on the low end, I have for you, I don't even know what this is. It's the Bochem Tech Priya. Basically this is your Amazon special. This is your cheapo. I'll lay out the prices here so you can see exactly what these things cost me. But this is your Amazon special. And the question is this good enough? These ones, the 2 ears operate independently. They're not connected by any wiring or anything like that. So they each have their own dial. It's interesting, both the dials to turn them on turn clockwise, which means that on one side you're going up, but on the other side you're going down, which again, not the end of the world, you can get used to that, but it's kind of weird compared to the rest of these. Next up, this is the Caldwell E-Max low profile. These ones work a lot like basically the rest of these. They are electronic. They do shut off the sound above, what do they say, 85 decibels. So as soon as you take a shot, basically what's going to happen is the sound's going to totally dampen. These use a push button to turn them on as well as to increase and decrease the volume. They're just pretty much straightforward. They fit over the ear. That's that. Next up on our list here, this is the Howard Light Impact Sport. These are just kind of a higher tier of this. They do use the dial style, which I actually like better. I found it just easier to use. It's quicker to get to whatever volume you want to. Turning off and on, you don't have to hold the button and look at the light and is it off, is it on? I'm not sure. It's easy for me to find with my finger here. I keep wanting to turn the dial. Maybe that's just because that's what I'm used to. So there's the Howard Light Impact Sport. Next up, this is the Walker's Razors. Now, there's a whole bunch of different versions of this, and the prices on them can range pretty widely. These for me, I think cost about 60 bucks. This is the Patriot Edition I found on Amazon at the time. I think this same one today might be a little bit more. There's all sorts of different styles. I like these ones. I like how they look. I like how they feel. I've had these ones for a little while now. They're the ones I own and use personally. And then lastly, these are the Walker Silencer. These are an earbud style. They fit in the ear. Unlike your normal earbuds, they just kind of rest in your ear. Obviously that wouldn't block out all the sound. And so these, much like if you're to use kind of the disposable version, you know, of the earplugs, you have to squeeze them down a little bit and then get them to fit snugly inside your ear. And then as they expand, they fill the space. And the actual noise reduction of these, the noise reduction rating that they give, is higher than any of the others here, which I find to be really interesting. And then they do a really good job. They work really well. Then on them on the outside, they have a little dial on each one. Of course, these operate independently, much like those do. They're not connected with a wire. And so each one has its own dial. The difference is with these ones, they thought ahead and they both turn the same direction. So if I turn forward, they both turn up or down, you know, as opposed to these where I got to turn one up and one back the other way. These ones, they come with this cool little carrying case. And inside the carrying case, they've got, you know, this little tool that you'll use to open them up and get the battery in and out. They also come with a couple of spare batteries, and they do come with a little cord that you can use to connect the two so that if you want to hang them around your neck, you can. Probably not a bad idea. So there's your introduction. Let's jump right into the testing that I did. How much do these actually reduce the noise level? So when you take a shot, how much is it actually cutting off of the top of the sound there? The noise reduction rating that these give on their specs is their official rating that they're tested at. So all in that appropriate range for a shooting earmuff. They're all gonna do a pretty good job for you. Now, I've shot with all of these quite a bit, and all of them definitely take the sting off. They definitely prevent you from getting any ear ringing that you would get from taking shots if you were not wearing hearing protection. So they're all doing their job. But I wanted to run a little bit more scientific test for you. So, well, let me just show you what I did. I decided to get a hold of a buddy of mine who actually has a perfect sense of hearing. His name's Joey. He's got a built-in decibel reader, and Joey's going to help us determine how well these things actually reduce the sound when shooting. Oh, did I forget to put in your ear pro? I'm sorry, bud. Hey. Well, it looks like as a baseline, we got 117.3 decibels. 116.1. It's all about the same. Well, that was a fun test, but apparently the styrofoam isn't as sound resistant as I thought it would be. So my test is kind of bunk. We'll move on to the next test. The next was when it comes down to comfort. And so this is a pretty subjective score, but I spent quite a bit of time wearing all of these, and I guess here's what it comes down to. When it comes to comfort, I actually liked the in-ear the best. Anything over ear, if you're gonna wear it for a long time, for example, you're spending a few hours at the range with some friends, or let's say you're actually gonna wear them hunting because the the sound enhancing feature of these is gonna help you to hear things around you, so you end up wanting to wear them. I don't know a lot of guys that do that. I certainly don't wear them around the whole time, but let's say you were going to, anything over ear, over time, it's gonna start to hurt, right? It's not gonna feel very good. The in-ear for longer periods of time is gonna feel the best. Now, in terms of over ear and comfort, the most comfortable actually for me was the cheapo, the Bochum Tech. And the reason for this is the cups are actually just bigger and deeper, and so they fit more around the ear and didn't compress my ear quite as much. Next, actually, the Caldwells. These were pretty comfortable for actually a lot of the same reason. Both the Walkers and the Howard Light were actually both still reasonably comfortable. I still give them a pretty high score. That said, I have spent a few hours straight wearing these many times and still never really had trouble. So from a comfort standpoint, I actually think you can't really go that wrong. Okay, now let's talk build quality. Obviously, the build quality on these is basically crap. I give these basically a 1. They look cheap, they feel cheap. I feel like I'm gonna break them every time I gotta open them up to put new batteries in. And if you take a look at the inside, I mean, it just looks so crummy. I have a feeling these aren't gonna last very long. Okay, the Caldwells, the Howard Lights, and then the Walkers, kind of in that order, increasing. I give a score of like a 6, 7, and an 8 out of 10. They just get slightly better as you go. With the push buttons, these are gonna be more likely to fail with time than the turn knob. And then these, I mean, just I guess the more matte finish on it, the more rubberized style of the plastic on the outside. I mean, these have been through a bit, and still you can't even tell. There's hardly a scratch or anything on them. They just have a good build quality. They feel very rugged, very solid. I mean, they just seem like they're gonna last a very long time. When it came to audio quality, this is where these really fall apart. Every sound had this like electronic tinny sound to it. When I'd speak, my own voice just sounded like crap. And I know it probably doesn't sound that great to you guys, but it certainly sounded really awful when coming through these. Taking a pretty huge step up, but still only in second to worst place, is these ones. Now, that's fairly understandable. I mean, you're talking about a tiny form factor. There's just not a lot of space in there for very good electronics. And so, but the audio quality, the issue here is kind of what the ambient noise sounds like. You get, you pick up a lot of the wind noise. It seems the sound activated compression seems to chime in every now and then when it doesn't seem like it really should. And then just the ambient noise sounded a lot messier. Next was the Caldwells. These were actually pretty good. They sound a lot like actually the Walkers, which are just slightly better. Again, the reason these don't come out on top is because you're picking up a lot of the ambient noise that you don't want to hear. A lot of the white noise, a lot of the rustling of the sagebrush, and just kind of those things that are constant, as opposed to those little sounds that you would want to have stand out much more. Whereas the Howard Lights, I felt like did a really good job of condensing or compressing, I suppose, that sound a little bit more. So what stands out in your ear is a cleaner version of the more unique sounds that stand out. And because of that, I feel like these actually do a better job of the sound enhancement that all of these claim to be doing. All the sound is a lot crisper, a lot cleaner. Hearing voices of people talking to you, it sounds a lot more true to life. Okay, now the next really important test. Listening to music. Okay, all of these except the earbuds, the silencers, all of these have an auxiliary input where you can actually plug in an MP3 player or something if you want to be listening to something else. Now, I get it, it's not just for an MP3 player. For example, Walkers makes a microphone that will attach to these, plugs into here, and you could use that to be like a walkie-talkie to communicate with with other people. And so you're going to hear their audio coming straight through your earmuffs, and they're going to hear you talking straight to them. So that's pretty cool. But all of these have the capability to be able to plug in some sort of external audio and listen. Whew, I am sorry for the sudden scene change. That was as abrupt as it gets. The weather here in Idaho is like this. The spring hits, it's like high of 60 one day, and 2 days later, it's today and it's over 100 degrees. My camera kept overheating. So anyway, I'm back inside. It is way cooler in here, by the way. But let's finish this out. Okay, so where was I? I think I was talking about music. All right, so with these ones, obviously the music only plugs in on one side, and since the two sides are not connected, it's interesting. You can hear the music through the right ear. You can't hear it through the left. Through the left ear, you can hear the ambient sound just fine. The right ear, it's kind of hit or miss. But also, at first I thought it didn't work because I turned the volume all the way up and I got no sound. If you hit max volume like right in the middle, I have no idea how this is intended to work, but anyway, it does work. The audio quality of like using them as headphones, these ones I would not use. They're pretty crappy. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. The next one up, the Caldwells, they weren't bad as headphones. They work fine. You can hear the ambient sound around you still. Okay, these ones, the Howard Lights, they're good. The audio quality is very good. Listening to music and stuff, I can still hear what's going on around me just fine. So not a whole lot more to say about them. I'd say they're just a little bit better. The Walkers, the audio quality on them is the best of all of these. Interesting thing about them, the way they work is different. So I can have these turned all the way off, but if I plug something in here to the auxiliary input, these work as speakers. So it'll act just like normal passive headphones for my phone or an MP3 player or whatever. The difference with these though is that when I'm listening to anything through here, I can no longer hear it. Cuts out the ambient sound. That may be on purpose. It may be that it's kind of meant to be one or the other. You plug in a microphone here and it's meant to be like a walkie-talkie. You're not supposed to hear what's going around you. You're supposed to hear the person you're talking to. Either way, this doesn't allow for both. And then obviously with the silencers, I don't have that option at all. There's no plug-in and they are not Bluetooth. None of these have the Bluetooth feature, which means none of them work with my iPhone. I had to pull out one of my old phones that still had a headphone jack to be able to do that test. In the end, these actually had the best audio quality when it came to that. But only by a little bit. Other interesting things about these, most of these have technology, and this is the way I assume that it works based upon what their websites say, is where basically the microphone shuts off if there's a sound above sort of their decibel limit. The decibel limit on most of these being anywhere between 82, 85 decibels. With the Walkers, they use what they call sound activated compression. They don't just shut off the microphone, they actually compress the audio that comes into the microphone whenever it's above their decibel limit. The Walkers both came with kind of nifty cases, so that's kind of neat. The other ones didn't. I guess I should give credit. The Bocom Tech came with this thing. Whatever, now I can't even find it. This is like cheap little nylon baggy thingy. You might have seen it on the table earlier when I was filming this. So it comes with that, but these other ones didn't come with any sort of a case. You can buy a case for them. The Howard Lights, these do automatically shut off after 4 hours, so if you accidentally left them on, didn't realize they were on, they're gonna shut themselves off to not waste their entire battery, which is kind of cool. The others at least don't state that they have that sort of feature, and I didn't leave them on long enough to check. Now I gotta read you something that the Bocom Tech says. Made of the highest quality microchip to keep nice sound quality when you hunting outside. You can still enjoy your music when using our shooting earmuffs. Would I buy the Bocom Techs? Not a chance. I did for this test, but would I actually want to use them? No. I would much rather turn these off and use them as just passive earmuffs. Probably the next one to go off of this list is probably the Walker silencer. Now, these are ones that since I own them, I'll probably use them, and I'll probably use them quite a bit. They're really comfortable. They do dampen the sound really well. They're small, they're light, they're compact. If I were to take any of these actually hunting, these would be the ones. Yes, they do have a place, but these are so much more expensive than all the rest of these that my recommendation is probably not to buy those unless, again, you're a backwoods hunter and that's what you're gonna use them for. Next to go probably is the Caldwells. Now, these are a really good option for a lot of people. If you're having to spend good money on this sport already, the rifles, the ammunition, it's also expensive. If you're having to spend a lot of money already and don't have a ton, here's a place where you can save a few bucks. Really, but the difference between this and these, you're gonna save 20 or 30 bucks. But hey, every bit helps. The main reason for that is, again, just it kind of comes down to the build, the buttons. Overall, they perform similarly to the other two, a little bit lower in pretty much every area, but I don't like the buttons. They're gonna wear out faster. I'm confident that they're gonna wear out faster, and I also just don't like how they work. I would much rather have the dial. So now, it comes down to these two. The Howard Light, these are made by Honeywell, Impact Sports, or the Walker's razors. Again, I got the Patriot Edition. It just looks cool. I love this one. Which one would I go buy today? I would probably pick the Howard Lights, the Impact Sports. You're gonna save about 10 bucks, depending which ones you buy. Sometimes you can spend a lot more even than that on these. But these ones performed about as well as the Walkers in pretty much every field. And I do like the audio quality on these a little bit better. If this is at all helpful for you to decide on which product to get, I invite you to go subscribe to this channel. We're spending our own money to go buy some of the most popular products out there. We do the same thing for firearms all the time, putting out this sort of content to help you make the best decision about what products you're gonna need and what you should buy, as well as just how to have the best experience shooting, hunting, and being in the outdoors. So if that's of help and of a benefit to you at all, please subscribe to this channel. And I invite you to go check out Backfire.tv. It's our website now that goes along with this channel, and it's being filled with all sorts of awesome content written by other experts in the gun industry, people who really know what they're talking about.